So we're out here in Chatham, Kent, near Tilbury, Ontario, and we're checking the condition of some strips we put down last fall on some soybean stubble into some clay loam. And so today we're going to check the plantability of these strips, and we're going to see whether they are in good condition or whether or not they need to be refreshed. So when we're assessing the strip for the plantability, we want to look at the residue cover. And as you can see, these strips actually have a decent amount of soil exposed and not too much residue left on top, which means we did a good job when we did them last fall, getting rid of the residue in front of the row. The next part we want to look at is take a quick measurement of how wide the strip is. And as you can see, these strips are approximately 8 to 10 inches wide, which is exactly how wide we stripped them last fall. So that's still going to be very plantable and they're still in nice condition. The next thing we want to look at is actually the depth of the strip at which we did them last fall. So we want to take our spade shovel and just push it into the ground about 5 or 6 inches and just raise up some of that soil and look at, so are there any issues of bridging or pockets or anything like that down in the strip? And in fact, there isn't any of that at all, and the soil seems to be in really nice condition. So next we're just going to confirm that the bottom of our strip is roughly where we did it last fall, and you can see it's about 5 inches there. Another piece you might want to think about is the height of the berm. In some cases, depending on your soil type, you may want a berm that is actually a little bit flatter, or you may want one that's raised. Berms in clay loam tend to have a harder time raising them when you strip. And actually these ones aren't in bad shape at all. If you took a tape measure and kind of laid it across the strips, you can kind of see that they're not sunken in, and that's ideal. We're out here in a strip till field we did last fall in Essex, Ontario. And what we're looking at today is an example of some strips we put down. And there's a few issues that are quite visible actually that are not going to work for us planting. And I'm just going to point out a few of them. First of all, the appearance of the strip is rough. You can see that there's not very much uniformness to the strip, and it's going to cause some uneven planting, and we're not going to want that for our emergence. And also that we had a lot of residue from the crop last year, and that we didn't do a good job of getting it out of the row. I'm going to stick down tape measure into the strip, and that's about 5 inches, and that's roughly how deep they were stripped last fall. And I just want to check and make sure that there's no pockets or any holes down in there. And here there's actually none of that. It's quite compacted, and that also is an indication of the wet conditions from last fall when we stripped it. And then lastly, you just want to do a quick check on the height. And as you can see in this field, in this particular area, the height of the strips are actually somewhat compromised. And you'll actually notice in some places they dip down, in some places they come up. And that's generally due to the condition at the time that we stripped it. And generally a rule of thumb is you want to have at least an inch of berm there, and we don't have that. So that's a bit of a concern as well. For this spring, I would recommend for this farmer to re-strip the field and freshen up these areas.